Hey guys, what's going on? So glad to have you joining me here today on New Music Finds. So if you're tuning into this, it's because you want to know what I have picked up over the past week. I get a lot of different stuff. This time I've got 18 different things. I've got CDs, I've got some vinyl, I've also got a box set in here. So a lot of cool things. I want to run through all that with you guys, talk about each thing, little kind of mini reviews, stuff like that. We'll dive into it here in just a bit. But before we get into it, if you're new to my channel, you haven't already hit the subscribe button, what are you waiting for, man? Come on, do it. Yeah, you want to stay up to date on cool videos just like this, where I'm talking about these things, hopefully to turn you on to some new stuff, and or just to remind you of some cool things maybe that you've got in your collection you forgot all about. Yeah, that's what this is all about. So hit the subscribe, turn on notifications, you'll never miss an episode. All will be well with the world. So let's dive into it. I like to start off with new releases. And man, this time I got 14 of these items here were all new, relatively speaking, either in the last 2 weeks. So some things arriving a little late or finding it after the fact. But we're going to start off with some of the big things. First one up was the brand new Offspring record came out, Supercharged. It's a very short record. I mean, it's like 35 minutes, maybe. It's got no, only 10 tracks. Yeah. So, I mean, it's 10 tracks. It's very, very short. You know, if you're looking for Offspring, you like Offspring, I think this is going to be good for you. But this one went a little bit too much of the pop punk sound to me. And I know they are like the inspirators of it, along with Green Day. And then, of course, Blink-182 and all those other bands came out in the early 2000s, you know, really taking it to another level. I don't know, nothing on here really moves me. The last album that they did, I think it was called Let the Bad Times Roll, was so good, man. 2021, I devoured that album. And I wanted that to be this because we've only had to wait 3 years, and that other album, I was like 9 years or something crazy. So I'm glad we got this so quick, but it's doing nothing for me. I might change my tune, you know, in 6 months from now or something like that. But I gotta say, overall, pretty disappointed with this one here. Just didn't move me the way that I hoped that it would. Next one up, Miles Kennedy, The Art of Letting Go. Good album for what it is. I like it. But again, it just didn't quite move me the way his last album did. The first one, the all acoustic one, was awesome. I love that. I want him to make another one of those. The second one that he did with full band and everything, it was sort of like, okay, wow, this is cool. And his guitar playing was awesome. And I love the guitar playing on here again, but I gotta say, so far, this is not gelled with me. And I'm gonna preference all this with, for me, sometimes I'm just not in the right mood at the right time. So don't take everything I'm saying specifically as the only way this might be. You should always check it out yourself, give it a listen, because just because I'm saying it's not moving me doesn't mean it won't move you. And if you're hearing about something going, oh yeah, I like Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge and Slash's band and stuff like that, then you know, check it out, certainly. Okay, next up was kind of a cool one, just something I wanted in the collection. UFO, the Hanover Session. So featuring 6 tracks recorded in Hanover, Germany, live in the studio. It was part of the Showtime DVD at the time, but no audio version was released. Finally getting a standalone release here. They tack on 4 studio songs from albums of that era with Vinnie Moore on it. Jason Bonham was part of the Hanover Sessions, not all the other tracks, but 10 tracks total. So you get the Hanover 6 songs. And like I said, live in the studio, so they sound like studio. There are some cool classic cuts on here. Love to Love. That was the first time I was really exposed to the power of that, watching them play, and it moved me completely. So I'm so glad to get that version of it, even though I do love the original classic one too. Now this was a Record Store Day release, and I was dying for this, but again, it just didn't do much once I finally had it. Def Leppard, live at Lead Mill. 2023, this was a club performance, interestingly done to promote their Drastic Symphonies, which was an album done with orchestra, yet none of that is part of this. It's very cool though. It's a single CD, 13 tracks on it, and it ranges everything. It goes way back to the beginning all the way to the present day. It's got a couple new tracks from Fire It Up, and Kick was on here, but they got awesome ones like Let It Go, which I absolutely love. Mirror Mirror is on here. Bringing On the Heartbreak, that awesome instrumental Switch 625. Cool stuff. I love it. And I loved listening to it when I had it from Record Store Day, and maybe it's just the fact that I'd already heard it and getting it on CD didn't do so much for me as I thought that it would. But it's Def Leppard, gotta have it in the collection, so there it is, and I'm gonna have it. What I did pick up is the Blu-ray edition, and I have not watched the live show. So I decided to go ahead and do that because since I already owned it on LP and I had already heard it, I wanted something that would make this different. And I'm quite sure when when I watch the performance, it's gonna completely change how I feel about it. Now here's what I thought I wouldn't do. A couple of you guys even asked if I was gonna pick this up or not. And my immediate thought was, no, zero interest, not gonna do it. I had found this coming out about a month ago and zero promotion on it, but wasn't gonna do it. Then it's staring at me in the face at Sound Exchange. It's all Anthony's fault. So I picked it up. Twisted Sister Stay Hungry, the 40th anniversary edition of the album. It's just simply remastered, but it does have a bonus disc of live show from that tour when they were promoting it. It's got two never before, well, not never before released, but not part of the original album. And apparently they were written and partially recorded back then, but later finished off. Blastin' Fast and Loud, Never Say Never, that comes from their Club Days album in 2001. And it was the live one. And they popped those on and they were fantastic. And now they've made their way back over to this. I will say this. They sound like they were recorded exactly at the same time. So whoever did the mastering and mixing of this album and everything did a wonderful job because I can't even tell the difference when we go from SMF into the two new songs that are tacked on to it. So I actually really enjoy it quite a lot. I thought they were literally just going to take the ones that were from the Club Days album and put them on here, which sounded modern. So good for them. I don't know if there's anything different. I know there's a booklet in here with a ton of stuff in it. I have not gotten into it, but hopefully that's going to explain it when I finally do get into it. And one that, again, I thought I would not pick up, but I listened to it digitally, dropped maybe a week or two before it was coming out. Steve Howe, Guitarscape, so the guitar legend from Yes, Steve Howe doing a solo instrumental guitar album. Apparently he had just bought some new keyboard of some kind and he works that in on, I think, every single song that's here. There are 14 songs. Some of them are short. They range from 2 to 3 minutes. Some of them like a minute and a half or so. And it's actually just the right amount of time for some of these interludes and things, but it really works well as sort of like a contemplative album because it's kind of very ethereal. Very still as much sounding like Yes, but a very kind of ethereal feel to it. I ended up really enjoying it. Like I said, I wasn't going to get it. I didn't think it was going to move me. I downloaded it when I saw that it dropped early before this, and I really enjoyed it and immediately put it on pre-order. And then it just took it an extra week or so to get here, which is why you didn't see it last week. All right, next up, DAD, which stands for Disneyland After Dark, but they can't use that name, so they just became DAD. And this one here, which is called Speed of Darkness, I had such high hopes for it when I first heard the two singles, which is called First, Second, and Third, and The Ghost. And the song The Ghost is the third track on here, is absolutely outstanding. And then I got the album, and it didn't really do much for me. But the funny thing was, I kept popping it on because I really wanted to give it a shot. Somewhere along the way, it absolutely clicked, and I am loving this. I'm listening to this daily now. It's just good hard rock with an acoustic flavor to it because they've always had the acoustic instrumentation mixed in with it. The singer still sounds so good. I don't know if all the guys are still original. The singer I know is still original. If you liked their first couple popular albums, Sleeping My Day Away, and I forget the name of the second one, but great stuff, still sounding like it. Those of you that just know that stuff, do check this one out. It is so good. I'm loving it. All right. A band that has been back and gone and reformed and gone and different lineup and this and that and whatever has made a return. TheDictators, a self-titled release, still featuring Andy Chernoff and Ross the Boss in here. Ross the Boss, yeah, from Manowar in here. Got a new singer. Sounds great. It pretty much still sounds like what you'd expect from TheDictators, but we got a different lineup in here. So Keith Roth, and somebody says he's a Sirius FM radio DJ guy. I don't know. And then we got Albert Bouchard on drums from Blue Oyster Cult. So that was kind of my thing. It was like, well, we still got lead guitar and bassist on here from the original band. And then we got Albert Bouchard joining in, who's fucking great. And then Keith Roth, I'm okay with that. So I'm digging it for what it is. It's just kind of a good 70s punk era sounding album from, you know, classic guys came from that era, even though Albert Bouchard was not part of the punk movement that was the Dictators. He's from that era. It's good to me. All right, I talked about these next two as part of my What Just Dropped series, where, man, I'm always finding cool stuff. If you're not tuning into that for some reason, but you're looking for new material, that is the place to go, because I'm always throwing in stuff that I have just discovered, don't know anything about, but I listen to it to make sure this is the kind of stuff that we like on this channel. Maybe not this next one here, but Destro, which is synthwave. I love synthwave, and I know that's not a big thing here on this channel. Most of you guys are not into that sort of stuff. Instrumental album, keyboard, as I said, synth-laden stuff. Sounds like music that you would hear in the Stranger Things soundtrack, stuff that John Carpenter would do in his movies like Halloween, The Fog, The Thing, all that sort of stuff. If that stuff interests you, this thing is amazing. That's all I'm going to say about that, because it's not the typical hard rock that we do here on the channel. But this is the New Roses. This band's been around for a long time, as I understand it, maybe even like about 20 years. This album here, I know they've got a lot of other ones out, and I just discovered them. I had always seen the name, but for whatever reason, I kind of bypassed it, I think, because it has the name Roses and it says New Roses, and I tied it too much to Guns N' Roses and them calling themselves the New Roses and sort of saying, you're supposed to be the new Guns N' Roses. I don't know, that's just how I took it. But I have to say, I finally gave up on that, gave it a shot, and I'm loving it, man. This has such great melodic hard rock, riffing, vocals, choruses on it. It's very catchy. Stuff is really good. Attracted to Danger is the title of this, which is also a great song in and of itself. Check out track 2, Natural Born Vagabonds is awesome on here. Love that song. That was the one that made me do it. Okay, these two, I got some vinyl too in here, as I said. I'm going to run through 5 total, but I'm going to show you these because they're new ones. So, released independently 2 weeks in advance, the debut solo album from David Coverdale, which is called White Snake, now turned into a White Snake album. So his second solo album, North Winds, now turned into a White Snake album. Both of these had been remixed, revisited, revamped, all that sort of stuff to give it the sound of White Snake. These things are awesome. They're going to be in the box set on CD, but not sold independently. But when I saw these with the White Snake logos, they were 2 weeks early on it. They've got new track listings, the way that they work on here. I had to do it. They're also colored vinyl. Anyway, worked for me, man. I was just glad. I love White Snake, man. If I can get some early White Snake, I'm going to do it. All right, while we're staying on the whole vinyl thing here, Glen Danzig put this out, Black Hell, with 13, 2 songs that were from The Hangover, the debut album, part of the movie, quote, soundtrack. But they didn't make the album as I understand it. So these 2 songs, Black Hell, never been released. Now that's actually out digitally. You can check that out. Doesn't really move me a whole lot, I have to say. But the song 13, which later turned up on Satan's Child 666, that came out that way. But since both of these were from The Hangover, and I don't know why it's not called like Hangover Leftovers or something, or whatever maybe wanted to call it, but those 2 songs finally making a 7-inch single out of it on black and red splattered vinyl. And I will open it at some point. I haven't opened it just yet because I've heard it digitally, but I am going to want to check it out where I can really sit down in front of the system and devour the music as it's coming out at me. And it's Danzig, but I'm going to wait until I'm in a Danzig mood for it. All right, this next one I had absolutely zero intention of buying, but it was staring me in the face. And I am a fan of this guy. I don't talk about him a lot, but I am. The new Jimi Hendrix box set, Electric Ladyland, 3 CDs plus a Blu-ray. And in this case, even though the Blu-ray has the Atmos and 5.1 on here, actually I don't know if it has Atmos, but definitely the 5.1, there is a documentary about Electric Ladyland Studios on here. Electric Lady, sorry. Just called Electric Lady Studios. But I don't know how many tracks. 37, 38. I want to say it's 38. 37 of which previously unreleased. It's a cool box set, man. It's all the original recordings without any touch-up, without any overdubs, without any other alternate musicians coming in and fixing them. The way that later releases like Cry of Love, Rainbow Bridge, First Rays of the Rising Sun, Voodoo Soup, however many times they have tried to make the final Jimi Hendrix album, if you want to hear what was actually the final stuff recorded, it's this. And a lot of you guys I've heard saying, you know, I have no interest. I've heard this a gajillion times. I have too. But I got to say, there's something about these original recordings that absolutely moved me. And I'm not sure. I haven't read the book. But if you guys know, go ahead and tell me because I want to know this. The first disc in here has only 10 tracks on it. Then disc 2 has 16 and disc 3 has 13. And I don't know why it's grouped the way that it is, but I am curious if the first 10 in here on disc 1, were they attempting to make the final album from Jimi Hendrix again, but with unedited, modified, changed, overdubbed, whatever? They just took his original recordings, these 10, these were earmarked. They think these would have been what made the album itself, or this is just how they broke it down. But those 10 tracks are so good on here. There's some of it is very, very different, and some of it not so much. But all different stuff, different alternate takes and versions. You get some cool studio banter in here. But I gotta say, man, it kicked off a whole Jimi Hendrix weekend for me, man. I've been digging this stuff so much. And that's gonna lead me into the next thing because I went and picked up some of the stuff that Alan Douglas and Tony Bon Jovi did. Uncle to John Bon Jovi, Tony Bon Jovi, producer, and had his own studio in New York. I picked up this, Crash Landing. And I believe this is the last one that Alan Douglas did. I can't remember entirely. I know there's something about it, but the 8 tracks on here. Alan Douglas, who became Jimmy's manager after he died, which seems like a really weird thing. How is he Jimi Hendrix's manager if Jimmy is dead? I don't know, but okay. He also began doing producing albums. He was given all the stuff, he dissected it, went through it, pulled it out and said, we're gonna work on these tracks. He makes a number of albums. This was one of them. This was 75 that it came out. But he brought in different musicians to flesh out the recordings, keeping the lead work from Jimi Hendrix and his vocals. And I don't know how much of all that storyline is this. I just know that that is the general gist of the Alan Douglas story. I like it. I like it because it sounds well produced. It's a different style Jimi Hendrix than what we know. And for me, I like that. So I'm enjoying the true Jimi Hendrix stuff. And I decided to go ahead and start finding this stuff. And I'm going to go try to dig up all of those albums. There's a bunch of them out there from all different producers and people that worked on stuff. But this one here, the lesser known songs that are on this, it's got Message to Love, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Crash Landing, Come Down Hard, Peace in Mississippi, With the Power, Stone Free Again, and Captain Coconut. So it doesn't have the big stuff like Freedom and some of those other ones that you just hear all the time, Dolly Dagger, and I don't know what else. There were big songs that came out of those final sessions that have since made greatest hits packages and stuff like that. So we're getting into the lesser known stuff, which I dig. I've talked about it before. I end up liking the stuff that's not overly done on the radio or the greatest hits or just whatever. All right. This was another one that I picked up, but it's actually 4 years old. The Stooges, the debut album, this is the John Cale mixes all together as the original album was intended to be. And I do have them on CD, but they're bonus tracks and they're tacked on and that kind of stuff. And we get the artwork, we get the original thing. It's on red vinyl, translucent red vinyl. Oh my God, this album changed everything. I was having a whole Jimi Hendrix going on thing and I popped this on and it changed and I was all onto the Stooges and Iggy Pop is fucking awesome, man. And I love it when I'm listening to things. When I'm not anticipating it. I was not anticipating it. I ended up just buying it because it was in front of me and I wanted it. This was a last minute find. It was sitting on the floor. I think Anthony was going to file it away somewhere else. He had taken it out of new releases for Rocktober because I think it's from 2020 and he just had some other stuff up there with all the Rocktobers. And I just saw it and I saw that it said John Cale Mixes and I go, wait, what? And I bought it on a whim. I bought it on a whim. It moved me so much. Oh my God. I've got some other Stooges related stuff coming later today. I'm super excited for it. All right. And then if you do follow Anthony on Sound Exchange, Anthony does it. There is no Anthony Coviello Instagram. But there is Sound Exchange Instagram. And make sure you get the right one in Wayne, New Jersey. But that is Anthony. And he's always showing new stuff coming into the store. And remember, he will ship to you guys if you're not local. But if you're local, he will hold it for you. You can come in and pick it up. And I saw in there, he got a cool metal collection from a vinyl guy. And I just go, oh, wow, man, where'd you get all that stuff? You know, but I didn't pay it much attention. And a lot of it was still there when I went in on Saturday. And I found some killer stuff. I found two things to pick up. Kuni, Japanese guitar player. Don't expect you guys to know who it is, and that's totally okay because I don't even really know who he is. I just know of him, right? Okay, that wasn't the reason I picked this up. I flipped it over. It's got a list of the people that play on the album. And we have Billy Sheehan of Mr. Big, Frankie Banali on drums from Quiet Riot, Chuck Wright also on bass, Quiet Riot. We've got Cal Swan on vocals, Cal Swan from Lion, Bad Moon Rising, playing with Doug Aldridge. We've got Neil Turbin from Anthrax on vocals. Kevin Dubrow, Quiet Riot. We also got Ryo Okamoto. I hope I said that name right. I do the best I can with Japanese. Playing keyboards. He's from Spock's Beard, and he's doing a bunch of other stuff. I mean, he's played in a lot of different bands. But all in all, man, I saw that and I just said, oh man, it's one of those. It's one of those ones where a Japanese guy got all these killer Western musicians to come over, well, except for Ryo Okamoto to be on here, to play. Freaking awesome, man. You got to check this thing out. It's great. And then this one, didn't even know anything about this one, but since I was in the store and I can pick them up, turn them over, all that kind of stuff. Hazard, killer looking album cover. So of course I stopped and said, got to check this out. Flipped it over. First person I saw on here, man. Herman Frank from Accept is on here. Also Victory. Malcolm McNutley is on here as the vocalist, and I know him as the later day era when Sweet reformed, I think 1985. He was their lead vocalist. Maybe it was later, and I could be wrong. Apologize if I'm wrong about that. But I just saw that. So having Malcolm McNutley on vocals and guitar and Herman Frank on guitar, I just was like, oh man, gotta check this out. Two guys that I know from other bands together. Didn't even know these guys had a band called Hazard. Freaking cool, man. I love finding stuff like this. You know, it's albums I've never heard of. I think I own everything. I got over 12,000. It's probably into 13 and 14. I got to do a count soon. It's like, there's nothing more. There's nothing more. I can't possibly find anything more. And then I find stuff. It's the best. And I hope you guys found some stuff out of all the stuff that I had here, the 18 different things, a bunch of vinyl, one box set. I think it was 13 CDs for you guys. This stuff moved me. Hopefully some of it moved you. And if not, let me know what moves you. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good one. I'm going to talk to you real soon. Bye, guys.